Good afternoon, evening, morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Roger W. Knight, and today we have the City of Lake Forest Park automated speed camera. They nabbed me, folks. They caught me doing a horrible speed in one of their school zones. Oh no! How could I be so dangerous? Well, let's look at this. I put links down below to violation.info, and this is their main page, and I already got into where the violation is. Let's look at Exhibit A. As you can see, my car is in one position, and up here the interval is 0. The time is 1:47:48.1 p.m. and the date is March 9th, 2021. So there's part of the evidence. And then we look at Exhibit B. And you see my car is a little further along. But not that much further along. It looked like it only moved one body length. And it's at 1:47:42.5 p.m. on the same date, March 9th, 2021. And you see the interval here is 681 milliseconds. I don't know how clear that is, but if you look at violation.info and put in the numbers I list, you should be able to see this for yourself. And of course, we have the film of the car. As you can see, it's nice and bright. It was a cloudy day. You see the car there, and you see two flashes of the camera. Let's roll that again. See how easy the car rolls through the curve? Nice rolling car. I did a really good job on the suspension and steering and all that with the car. So that's the violation.info video. Now, I looked at the map, and there is this thing called a violation data report. And let's see. Right here, I put this on the computer. Oh, where are these that darn arrow there? And this is the violation evidence report, as you can see, that the Lake Forest Park Superior Municipal Court sent me when I requested it. And it has all the data here and such, and what it is, and the numbers and the document numbers and all and on and on and on. And you go down there and you see the first photograph, and you go down further, you see the second photograph. Well, this slide bar is kind of interesting when you read this in Adobe Acrobat. You can go back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, and you see the car seems to be moving in a period of 0.7 seconds, or 681 milliseconds, about one of its lengths. It's about one of its car lengths. So we're not really moving further than that. So it's like it's about 17 feet. Let's see, the 1966 Pontiac Lemans' GTOs and Tempest cars, they're 17 feet 2 inches in length. So we can be generous and say that car moved, whoops, let's see, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, about 18 feet. So let's do the math. 18 feet in 0.681 seconds gives us a mathematical parameters from which we can calculate the average speed of the automobile in that interval. And let's walk you through the math. Here you're looking at the math. You have 0.681 seconds. It's an interesting interval because it just happens to be equal to 3,600, the number of seconds in an hour, divided by 5280, the number of feet in a mile, and you get 0.68181818181, and so on and so forth. But we can round down to 0.681 seconds. So that's a pretty good interval to be using for this kind of automated speed camera. And if we look at the speed of the car, if it's going 18 feet in 0.681 seconds, we can say that it went 18 times 5280 divided by 3,600 feet per second. And the equation to go from feet per second to miles per hour, well, you just take velocity in feet per second times 3,600 seconds per hour divided by 5,280 feet per mile equals that V, velocity in feet per second, times 3,600 divided by 5,280 miles per hour. You can just let it sit that way for our purposes. We don't have to calculate it down. The fraction does reduce to 15 over 22, I believe, if I remember correctly. And then we do this calculation, and you see it's 18 times 5,280 divided by 3,600 times 3,600 divided by 5,280. And, well, when the reciprocal is multiplied with itself, you get 1. So 18 feet per second, 18 feet in 0.681 seconds gives you 18 miles per hour. And that's why the interval of 0.681 seconds has been chosen. But here's a funny thing. The speed that you see is listed as 29. But what units? If it's 29 miles per hour, it's way out of, way discrepant to the interval that you can see the car bouncing back and forth, because for it to be traveling 29 miles per hour, it would have to travel 29 feet. And that's about 1.7 lengths of that Pontiac, and it's not going that far. It's just not going that far. So to try to figure out what's going on, well, we can take the 29, you divide it by the 18, and you get 1.61, which just happens to be the number of kilometers in a mile approximately. The exact number is 1.609344. That's the number of kilometers in a mile. But 1.61 is a reasonably suspicious number. Makes you think that maybe they made a mistake here. But anyway, I presented this evidence to the Lake Forest Park Superior Court, and well, I got the tape of the hearing for my appeal, and I got a transcript, and I'm writing that. And let's just play the tape of the hearing.
If you look at the violation data report in Adobe Acrobat, you'll see there's a slide bar down the right side of the report. And you see the first page, and then you move down to the second page. You see the first photograph of my car. You slide it down a little more, the second photograph there, and you can see how far my car moved in that time interval. Now, speed is distance per unit of time. You get feet per second, miles per hour, meters per minute, furlongs per fortnight. That's what speed is. So the time interval, 0.681 seconds, or 0.7 seconds if you just go by the regular timestamp, that's the time interval that my car traveled between those two camera flashes. If you were to look at the video of my car, you see the two camera flashes flash. You see the two flashes of light about 0.7 of a second apart, you know, if you just visualize it. And you see where the car is. The car moved about one of its body lengths during that interval. It is 17 feet 2 inches long. And at most, it moved 18 feet in that time interval. If you do the math, that works out to about 18 miles per hour. That's why I thought that reading of 29, I was kind of wondering, if you take that 29, divide by 18, you get 1.61, which is the ratio of kilometers to miles. And I was wondering, gee, did they make that mistake? Maybe. But whether they made that mistake or not, the simple fact is the car traveled 18 feet between those two camera flashes, those two still photos. That's how far it traveled. And if it traveled 18 feet in 0.681 seconds, it was rolling 18 miles per hour. There is no violation. It's a very simple test of the system. And my reverse engineering is that I suggested, well, if they took it to a test track, this is how they would have tested it. And since they are mass marketing this, they would probably set the system so it could be set to read in kilometers or in miles, but you have to choose which. But The car traveled 18 feet at most between those two camera shots, those two still photos. So this proves no violation. So we have the evidence provided the city's exhibit proving that my car traveled 18 feet in 0.681 seconds, which is 18 miles per hour. No violation.
And you're guessing on the feet, looking at the two different pictures. Is that what you're saying? Looking at
the length of the car is 17 feet 2 inches. So use the car itself as a measuring device. If you slide down, you see it flip back and forth in the two pictures. So you can see the car's not moving 29 feet, which it would have moved if it was indeed rolling at 29 miles per hour.
And Your Honor, I know that the city doesn't normally get involved in these cases when there's not witnesses that are subpoenaed or a defense counsel on board. But I do know from past experience that this is an appeasio loop configuration, which is a different mathematical calculation than I think what defense counsel or what defense is proposing. If he wishes to interview, as I was talking to him a little bit beforehand, if he wishes to interview the individuals from ATF that run the cameras and the science behind it and their equipment, he's certainly free to do that. But I think what he, without further foundation, is proffering to the court is not substantiated.
Right, and so Mr. Knight, you did receive the documentation from the court as to the certification, the testing of the
Well, the certification that I received had to do with LiDAR and radar.
This is using a radar.
And now the prosecutor is saying it's an appeasio loop.
Well, the materials they sent you explains the science that's being used. So did you review the documents? There was certificate and 3 exhibits. So
yes, I looked at that. Well, one of the exhibits was the violation data info. And you take the 2 photographs. You see how far the car moved. It moved one of its body length. In the second photo, the later photo, you look under INT, it says 0681 ms, which looks like 681 milliseconds. You look at the timestamp, you see 0.7 seconds difference. So between those 2 photographs, the car took 0.7 seconds or 0.8681 seconds to travel that distance. The rear bumper in the second photo is where the first bumper was in the first photo. So the car traveled at most 18 feet. It was a 17-foot 2-inch long car. So you just look at those photos, you look at the timestamp, you do the calculations, 18 miles per hour.
Well, I'm looking at the documentation that was presented that has found that you were traveling 29 miles an hour in a 20 mile per hour.
Are you looking at the photographs?
I'm not the scientist. I'm looking at the report that was offered under penalty of perjury, and I'm looking at the certification that the machines are designed and constructed to render an result.
I'm asking you to look at the photographs.
I see the photos, but that is not for me to be calculating. I'm looking at the science that was done and the materials I have before me. And
So you're not going to believe your lying eyes.
I'm not going to do my own math looking at a picture without some sort of calculation. I'm going to rely upon the science.
If you look at the car, it has a length. The car is not 29 feet long. It's 17 feet long. And I presented you my report as an expert, although I am biased. I do have a mechanical engineering degree, and I did it for a while.
I can tell you're very intelligent and that you know science, but I'm looking at the experts and the technicians that have run through all these different devices, specifically the one for the location where you were captured on camera here. And I do find that there, by a preponderance, that there is sufficient information there to show that you were exceeding the speed limit on that day.
And I object to the
Okay, so this person who was doing, she was a judge pro tem, and let me see, I looked in here. Who is the judge pro tem? Judge pro tem on June 7th is named Jennifer Johnson Grant. She has a Washington State Bar Association number 26044. This person ought to go into Boeing management. I think she'd make more money as a Boeing management than she can as a judge, but that's just me. Because she certainly has a Boeing supervisor's ability to miscomprehend or non-comprehend a simple mathematical explanation. God forbid anyone try to explain to her that 5/8 inch is 1/8 of 5 inches, or that there are 254 angstroms in a microinch, or there are 1 billion cubic millimeters in a cubic meter. God forbid. But this is what we have. Anyway, have a nice evening and a pleasant tomorrow.